Welcome to What If Deku Had a Half and Half Quirk Part 2. Please like and subscribe and enjoy the video. The waters of the USJ rippled beneath Izuku's cloud platform. The civilians sheltered beneath heaven's canopy, the massive dome of living clouds that hovered over the flood zone. The villains circled its edges like wolves, testing the barrier with knives, pipes, and stolen equipment. Each strike simply sank into the clouds and lost its force. Izuku breathed heavily. Creating a shield this large demanded constant focus. His muscles trembled. "I can hold it. Just a little longer." One villain laughed. "He's getting tired." Another raised a massive steel beam. "Then let's make him drop it." They charged together. Izuku released one hand from the barrier. Clouds condensed into a long white staff. With a single sweeping motion, he redirected the first attacker into the water. Another swung a crowbar. Izuku ducked. Nimbus' step carried him across the lake. The crowbar struck only missed. A familiar voice echoed across the water. "Midoriya!" Izuku turned. Riding on a floating piece of wreckage were Tsuyu Asui and Minoru Mineta. Tsuyu landed beside him with a graceful leap. "Kero, I thought you were alone." "So did I." Mineta looked around at the enormous cloud barrier. You made that?" Izuku nodded. "It's protecting the rescue staff." Mineta stared for a second. "You're terrifying." Tsuyu smiled faintly. "I think he means impressive." Before anyone could say more, the villains regrouped. Nearly 30 now surrounded the lake. One of them shouted, "Take the barrier down!" Another pointed at Izuku. "He's the source." Tsuyu lowered her stance. "We're outnumbered." Izuku looked across the water. "No." He smiled. "We're heroes." The battle became a lesson in teamwork. Tsuyu darted across the floating debris, using her tongue to disarm villains and pull trapped workers toward the safety of heaven's canopy. Mineta hurled his sticky pop-off spheres with surprising accuracy, pinning several attackers together. Whenever someone tried to break through, Izuku reshaped the clouds. A wall became a staircase became a bridge became a shield. The battlefield itself obeyed his will. Watching from a rooftop, one villain muttered, "It's like fighting the weather." But every quirk has limits. Tiny fractures began appearing within heaven's canopy, not visible to civilians, only to Izuku. His breathing grew ragged. Recovery Girl's warning echoed in his memory. Stormheart consumes something deeper than stamina. His vision blurred for a heartbeat. A thin ribbon of darkness curled around his left arm. The void had sensed his exhaustion. It whispered, not with words, but with instinct. "Let me help." Izuku clenched his fist. "No." The darkness retreated, but only slightly. Meanwhile, in the center of the USJ, Aizawa's body ached. He had defeated dozens of villains. His capture scarf was torn. Bruises covered his arms. Yet he refused to step back. Then, the massive bioengineered creature stepped forward. The Nomu. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong. Its muscles rippled unnaturally. Its empty eyes never blinked. Shigaraki scratched at the hand covering his face. "Go." The Nomu disappeared. Aizawa barely had time to react before a fist slammed into his side. The impact launched him across the plaza. Concrete shattered beneath him. The watching students gasped. "This monster," Aizawa forced himself to stand, "isn't human." Far across the USJ, Izuku froze. His cloud sense, a heightened awareness carried through every cloud he controlled, picked up something impossible. A shockwave. Not from an explosion. From a single punch, the force rolled through the dome like thunder. Every cloud he had created trembled. His left eye widened. Someone's in danger. Tsuyu noticed immediately. "What is it?" "Aizawa needs help." Izuku looked toward the civilians inside heaven's canopy, then toward the distant central plaza. If he left, the barrier would disappear. If he stayed, Aizawa might die. For a moment, he couldn't move. Every choice meant risking someone's life. Tsuyu stepped beside him. "We'll protect them." Izuku looked at her. "You can't hold the barrier." "No," she smiled. But you don't have to carry everything yourself, Karo. Mineta gulped. I'll help too. Izuku stared at them, then nodded. Thank you. He carefully transferred part of the cloud structure into autonomous formations. They would last only a few minutes without him. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Nimbus Step ignited beneath his feet. He launched into the air. At the center of the USJ, Shigaraki smiled. The symbol of peace isn't coming. He's late. Aizawa struggled to rise. The Nomu advanced. Its massive fist drew back. Then, a deafening gust of wind swept across the plaza. Clouds parted. The villains looked upward. A familiar voice echoed through the dome. I am here. The entire USJ shook as All Might landed between Aizawa and the Nomu. His cape billowed. His smile never faltered, even though those closest to him could see it. He looked tired. Shigaraki tilted his head. So, you finally arrived. All Might smiled confidently. I apologize. I took a wrong turn. Several students almost laughed despite the danger. Izuku landed moments later atop a broken pillar overlooking the plaza. Relief washed over him. He's here. But as his eyes met the Nomu's, the void inside him stirred violently, not with fear, with recognition. For the briefest instant, black symbols flashed across his vision, ancient markings he had never seen before. Then they were gone. Izuku staggered. What was that? High above the battlefield, hidden among the clouds, the leader of the eclipse watched silently. He closed his eyes. So it's true. The void remembers. The instant All Might landed, the atmosphere inside the USJ changed. Students who had been on the verge of despair stood a little taller. Villains who had been laughing moments before took an involuntary step backward. Hope had arrived. All Might smiled. Even a sweat rolled down his face. Young Aizawa. You've done well. Aizawa, battered but conscious, gave a tired nod. Took you long enough. All Might chuckled. I know. Then his expression hardened. Now leave the rest to me. The Nomu stared blankly at All Might. No emotion, no hesitation, only purpose. Shigaraki scratched at the hand covering his face. Go. The Nomu disappeared. The explosion of air that followed shattered nearby windows. All Might barely raised his arms in time. Boom! The collision echoed through the USJ. Concrete burst beneath their feet. Shockwaves rippled through every disaster zone. Students had to brace themselves just to remain standing. Izuku watched in disbelief. They're both holding back? If this was restrained, he couldn't imagine their full strength. All Might drove the Nomu backward with a flurry of punches. 1, 5, 20. Each strike created hurricane force winds. The Nomu stumbled, then stood back up. Its wounds healed almost instantly. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. Regeneration. Shigaraki grinned. He's designed to kill the symbol of peace. Every punch that would have defeated an ordinary villain only delayed the monster. All Might realized something. It's adapting. Across the battlefield, Izuku's left eye began to ache. Not from overuse. From recognition. Every time the Nomu regenerated, the void inside him pulsed. Tiny black symbols flickered across his forearm before vanishing. He clutched his arm. Why does my quirk react to it? The feeling wasn't hatred. It wasn't fear. It felt like memory. As though the void had seen something like the Nomu long ago. Shigaraki's attention shifted away from All Might. His eyes settled on Izuku. The black mist around the boy's left arm, the strange symbols, the unusual calm. He tilted his head. Interesting. He pointed toward Izuku. Him. Several villains looked confused. The kid? Shigaraki nodded. I don't know what he is, but I want him alive. Hidden behind his calm voice was curiosity. The void wasn't behaving like any quirk he'd encountered. The Nomu landed a devastating blow. All Might crashed through 3 buildings before stopping. For just a second, the students froze. Was the symbol of peace losing? Izuku's heart pounded. Clouds formed instinctively around him. The void whispered again. Help him. He looked at his hands. Recovery Girl's warning echoed in his mind. Stormheart consumes your life energy. If he activated it now, he might collapse. If he didn't, All Might could die. He closed his eyes. There was only one answer. A hero didn't wait for the perfect moment. He acted. White clouds erupted around Izuku. Black mist spiraled upward. The two forces met. This time, they merged more smoothly. Lightning danced through silver clouds. The familiar silver and black aura surrounded him, but something was different. Ancient markings spread across his left arm, glowing faintly like stars against the night sky. No one knew what they meant, not even Izuku. He shot into the air using Nimbus Step, accelerating faster than ever before. All Might glanced up. "Young Midoriya, I'll create an opening." The Nomu lunged at All Might again. Izuku intercepted. He didn't attack directly. Instead, he spread Sky Veil across the battlefield. Dense clouds wrapped around the Nomu's legs, slowing its movements without trapping it completely. The creature tore through them, but that single heartbeat was enough. All Might understood instantly. He smiled. Excellent. He drove a crushing punch into the Nomu's chest. The creature staggered. Its regeneration slowed. Not because of the punch, because tiny strands of void energy had clung to the damaged tissue. For the first time, the Nomu couldn't heal instantly. Shigaraki's smile disappeared. Impossible. All Might looked at Izuku, then at the wounded Nomu. This ends now. He planted his feet. Every remaining ounce of strength surged through his body. The air trembled. The students watched with wide eyes. This is for everyone you've threatened. With a roar that echoed across the USJ. United States of Smash! The punch launched the Nomu high into the sky. The shockwave split the clouds above the dome. The monster blasted through the ceiling and disappeared into the distance. Silence followed. Then the villains panicked. Their greatest weapon had been defeated. Shigaraki stared at the hole in the ceiling. His hands trembled. Not from fear, from frustration. The purple warp villain stepped beside him. "We must leave." Shigaraki looked once more at Izuku. The black markings on the boy's arm were already fading. "Docs, next time," he pointed at Izuku, "I'll learn what you are." The purple mist expanded. One by one, the villains disappeared. The USJ fell quiet. Police sirens echoed in the distance. The battle was over. Later that evening, the students rested in the infirmary. Most were exhausted. Some had minor injuries. Izuku sat alone by the window. He looked at his left arm. The glowing symbols were gone, but he remembered them clearly. Outside, rain began to fall. High above the clouds, the leader of the eclipse watched from a distant rooftop. He whispered a name carried away by the wind. The Astral Seal. So the legends were true? Behind him, the doctor asked quietly, "What does it mean?" The leader's gaze never left the hospital. "It means the void has accepted its bearer, and from this day forward, the world itself will begin searching for him." Lightning flashed across the night sky. Far below, unaware of the destiny unfolding around him, Izuku watched the rain and made a silent promise. "No matter what this power is, I'll use it to save people." The USJ attack changed everything. Before that day, Class 1A had been a group of promising students. After that day, they were survivors. The halls of UA felt different. Teachers were more alert. Security was tighter. Students from other classes whispered whenever Class 1A walked by. They had faced real villains and won. For Izuku, the attention felt uncomfortable. Everywhere he went, people stared. Some remembered the giant cloud barrier that had protected civilians. Others talked about the mysterious black energy seen during the battle. Rumors spread quickly. The cloud guy stopped villains by himself. He helped All Might defeat the Nomu. His quirk can't be erased. He has 2 quirks. He's secretly related to a pro-hero. Most of the rumors were nonsense, but they spread anyway. One afternoon, Izuku sat alone on a rooftop overlooking the campus. Clouds drifted lazily overhead. Normally, the sight calmed him. Today, It didn't. A gentle breeze tugged at his uniform. "Everyone's watching me now." The words felt strange. For years he had been invisible. Now, he couldn't disappear even if he wanted to. A voice interrupted his thoughts. "You dislike attention." Izuku looked up. Standing nearby was Shoto Todoroki. His expression remained as unreadable as ever. Todoroki stood quietly for several seconds. Then, "You fought the Nomu." Izuku nodded. "Only a little." "You helped All Might win?" "I helped create an opening." Todoroki folded his arms. Most students couldn't have done even that. Silence settled between them. Then Todoroki said something unexpected. "I want to fight you." Izuku blinked. "What?" "At the sports festival." His eyes narrowed slightly. "You're hiding something." The words struck deeper than Todoroki realized, because he was right. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but there were things even Izuku didn't understand about his own quirk. Todoroki turned toward the exit. "When we fight, don't hold back." Then he left, leaving Izuku alone with his thoughts. A few days later, the entire school gathered in the stadium. The UA Sports Festival, one of the biggest events in Japan. The stands overflowed with spectators. Professional heroes filled entire sections. Talent scouts watched carefully. Every student dreamed of standing at the top. President Mike's voice thundered across the arena. "Welcome to the UA Sports Festival." The crowd erupted. Cheers shook the stadium. Thousands of voices echoed through the massive structure. Izuku looked around in awe. He had never seen so many people in one place. The pressure felt overwhelming. Then he noticed something strange. High in the crowd, a man wearing a dark suit watched him. Not cheering, not smiling, just watching. The moment their eyes met, the man disappeared into the crowd. Elsewhere in the stadium, the mysterious man pressed a finger against a hidden earpiece. "I've confirmed visual contact," a distorted voice answered. "Report. The Void Bearer is present." The man's gaze returned to Izuku. "He appears stable." The voice paused. "And the astral seal?" "Confirmed." Several seconds of silence followed. Then, "Continue observation." The transmission ended. The man blended back into the crowd. President Mike grinned. "For our first event." A giant screen lit up. Obstacle race. The stadium exploded with excitement. The massive gate before the competitors slowly opened. Beyond it stretched miles of obstacles. Robots. Canyons, traps, hazards, everything designed to push young heroes to their limits. The students lined up. Bakugo smirked confidently. Todoroki stood silently. Iida adjusted his glasses. Ochako smiled nervously. Izuku took a deep breath. One step at a time. The starting signal sounded. The crowd erupted. Hundreds of students surged forward. Immediately, the giant robots blocked the first section. Explosions shook the ground. Ice spread across the battlefield. Students scrambled in every direction. Izuku stayed calm. Clouds gathered behind his back. More than usual. Larger, denser. The mist expanded outward, then compressed. Two enormous white wings formed. The audience gasped. The wings weren't feathers. They were made entirely of cloud. Soft, elegant, powerful. Izuku smiled. A technique he had developed after the USJ. Tempest wings. One powerful flap launched him into the air. For the first time, Izuku flew. Not floated, not glided. Flew. The crowd roared. He soared above the giant robots while dozens of students remained trapped below. Cloud currents carried him forward effortlessly. The wind rushed past his face. Freedom. Pure freedom. For a brief moment, he felt as though he belonged among the clouds themselves. Even Todoroki looked surprised. "Interesting," Bakugo growled. "Of course he learned another trick." The second obstacle approached quickly. A massive canyon stretched across the course. Support cables hung over the gap. Most students carefully crossed. Others attempted risky jumps. Izuku spread Tempest wings again. He could simply fly across. Then he noticed something. Several students had fallen behind. One support course student clung desperately to a broken cable. Fear filled their eyes. Izuku could have ignored them. He could have focused on winning. Instead, he turned. Nimbus' step carried him toward the stranded student. Clouds formed beneath them. A floating bridge appeared. The students stared in disbelief. "You... go!" The student hurried across. Izuku smiled, then resumed the race. The spectators noticed. Professional heroes noticed too. Not because of his power, because of his decision. Most competitors focused entirely on victory. Midoriya had stopped to help someone. Again. Just like during the entrance exam. Just like at the USJ. A pro hero in the audience quietly remarked, "That kid doesn't know how not to save people." The finish line finally came into view. Todoroki was ahead. Barely. Bakugo wasn't far behind. Izuku accelerated. Tempest wings expanded to their maximum size. Cloud currents spiraled around him. For a moment, the sky itself seemed to carry him. The crowd rose to its feet. 3 students, 3 future stars, racing toward the finish, and none of them willing to lose. The roar of the crowd echoed across the stadium. 3 figures raced toward the finish line. On the left, Shoto Todoroki, skating across a frozen path of his own creation. On the right, Katsuki Bakugo, propelling himself forward with explosion after explosion. Above them, Izuku Midoriya, his tempest wings stretched wide across the sky, carrying him through powerful currents of wind. The finish line was less than 200 meters away. Every student in the stadium held their breath. Victory was within reach. Then Izuku noticed movement below. One of the support course students had become trapped beneath a collapsed section of debris from the final obstacle. The course marshals had not reached them yet. The race continued. The crowd didn't even realize someone was in danger. Izuku did. His wings faltered for only a moment. The answer came instantly. So what? He folded one wing and dived. The audience gasped. What is he doing? He landed beside the trapped student. Clouds wrapped gently around the fallen debris. Instead of lifting it with brute force, they spread the weight evenly before floating the rubble away. The student stared at him. "You..." Izuku smiled. "Can you stand?" The student nodded shakily. "Good. Then finish the race." High above the stadium, several pro heroes exchanged glances. One of them chuckled. He did it again. Another nodded. That kid really can't ignore someone who needs help. By the time Izuku returned to the course, the finish line had already been crossed. First, Todoroki. Second, Bakugo. Izuku landed gracefully and crossed the line moments later. Third place. The crowd erupted anyway. Some cheered because of his spectacular flight, others because they had just witnessed someone give up a chance at victory to help another competitor. Present Mike laughed into his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've just seen what being a hero really means." The applause only grew louder. Backstage, Bakugo slammed a fist into the wall. Damn it. He hadn't cared about finishing second. He cared that Deku hadn't even tried to beat him. To Bakugo, it felt like pity. Meanwhile, Todoroki quietly approached Izuku. "You slowed down." "I know." "You could have won." "Maybe." Todoroki studied him carefully. "Why?" Izuku looked back toward the obstacle course. "Because if I ignored someone who needed help just to win, I wouldn't deserve to become a hero." For the first time, a faint smile appeared on Todoroki's face. "I expected that answer." He turned and walked away. "But don't expect me to go easy on you." In the VIP section, dozens of pro heroes discussed the race. Some focused on Todoroki's overwhelming ice. Others praised Bakugo's explosive mobility. But one name kept returning. Midoriya. A veteran rescue hero leaned back in his chair. "His quirk is remarkable." Another hero shook her head. "That's not what impressed me." "No? He keeps choosing people over points." Silence followed. Finally, one of the older heroes smiled. "That's harder to teach than any quirk." Present Mike's booming voice echoed through the stadium. "Now for our second event, Cavalry Battle." The giant scoreboard appeared above the arena. The rankings from the obstacle race determined point values. Todoroki's headband was worth the most. Bakugo's wasn't far behind. Then, the crowd noticed something surprising. Midoriya's point value was nearly as high as Bakugo's, despite finishing third, because of the judges' bonus points for rescue actions. The stadium buzzed with excitement. Everyone's going to target Midoriya. He'll have a giant target on his back. Izuku gulped. That's not good. Ochako laughed. I'd say it's very not good. Students scrambled to form teams. Some immediately surrounded Todoroki. Others rushed toward Bakugo. Izuku stood awkwardly, unsure if anyone would choose him. Then, Ochako walked over. I'm with you. Ida adjusted his glasses. As am I. A familiar, cheerful voice called out. Don't forget me. Fumikage Tokoyami stepped forward. Your clouds create excellent cover. Izuku blinked. You want to team up with me? Tokoyami nodded. I trust your judgment. A warm feeling spread through Izuku's chest. Not long ago, no one wanted to stand beside him. Now, people chose him, not because of his power, but because they believed in him. Far above the stadium, inside a private viewing room, the mysterious observer from the eclipse lowered a pair of binoculars. He activated his communicator. The bearer continues to prioritize rescue over victory. The cloaked leader's voice answered calmly. As expected. There's something else. What? The cloud half grows stronger whenever he chooses hope. Silence. Then, and the void? The observer hesitated. It remains completely dormant. The leader sighed softly. Good. For now. The transmission ended. The observer looked back toward the stadium. He whispered to himself, You have no idea what sleeps inside you. As the cavalry battle teams assembled on the field, Izuku looked at his teammates. Ochako smiled confidently. Iida stood with perfect posture. Tokoyami rested calmly beneath the shadow of Dark Shadow. Izuku took a deep breath. I don't know if we'll win. Ochako grinned. We'll do our best. Iida nodded. We'll protect one another. Tokoyami's deep voice remained steady. The darkness and the clouds shall move as one. Izuku laughed. Let's do this. Above them, the clouds drifted peacefully across the blue sky. For now, the void remained silent. But deep within its endless darkness, something ancient opened its eyes. Not in anger, not in hatred, but in anticipation. The sports festival had become more than a competition. It had become the first stage of a destiny that neither heroes nor villains yet understood. The stadium fell silent. Dozens of teams lined up across the massive arena. Every student wore a point headband, but only a few truly mattered. At the very top, Todoroki, Bakugo, Midoriya, Present Mike raised his hand. 3, 2, 1, go! The field erupted into motion. Almost immediately, more than half the arena changed direction. They weren't chasing first place, they were chasing Izuku. Within seconds, 8 different teams closed in. Explosions lit one side of the field. Ice surged across another. Steel cables, vines, tape, and countless quirks converged toward Team Midoriya. Ochako looked around in disbelief. Everyone picked us? Iida adjusted his stance. Our point total made us an obvious target. Tokoyami's shadow spread protectively. We expected this. Izuku closed his eyes. He listened. Not to the crowd, not to the shouting, to the wind. Clouds gathered around their team, drifting low across the arena floor. We're not fighting them. We're moving. The mist thickened. Instead of forming barriers or weapons, the clouds wrapped gently around Izuku's teammates. A current of air lifted them. Not enough to fly, enough to glide. The clouds responded to every shift in Izuku's thoughts, carrying the team as though they were sailing on invisible rivers. Ida's eyes widened. I don't even have to run! Ochako laughed as they skimmed across the field. This feels amazing! Tokoyami remained calm. The wind obeys you. Izuku smiled. I call it Cloud Dominion. The technique didn't make them faster than Bakugo or stronger than Todoroki. It made them move as one. Every turn, every dodge, every acceleration happened without anyone speaking. It was as if the clouds themselves understood what each teammate needed. The first attacking team lunged. Cloud Dominion shifted. Their charge missed by inches. Another team approached from behind. Tokoyami's dark shadow intercepted them, forcing them backward. Ochako touched a pile of loose steel plates, weightless. The clouds caught them. Instead of falling, the plates floated around Team Midoriya like protective satellites. An enemy reached for their headband. Ida burst forward with engine at full power. The attack failed. Within minutes, several teams gave up the chase. They couldn't catch a team that moved like flowing air. Across the battlefield, Bakugo blasted through another team. His explosions echoed across the arena. At the same time, Todoroki froze an entire section of the field, eliminating several opponents at once. Then, their eyes met. Both looked toward Izuku. Bakugo smirked. "Stay out of my way," Todoroki answered calmly. "I'm not interested in your rivalry. I'm interested in Midoriya." Bakugo's expression darkened. "You don't get to fight him before I do." Without another word, explosions collided with walls of ice. The collision sent steam billowing high into the stadium. Students scattered. Neither of them had planned to fight each other, but neither was willing to step aside. Far above the cheering spectators, the Eclipse observer adjusted a small device hidden beneath his sleeve. It emitted a pulse. Invisible. Silent. The pulse washed over the arena. Izuku froze. His left eye flickered black for a fraction of a second. The void stirred. Not violently, just enough for him to feel an icy pressure in the back of his mind. "Use me." The whisper was faint. He clenched his fist. No. Clouds brightened around his team. The darkness receded. High in the stands, the observer narrowed his eyes. So, he can resist it. The countdown began. 60 seconds remaining. Now every team became desperate. Students who had been defending suddenly attacked. Headbands changed hands every few seconds. Cloud Dominion carried Team Midoriya through the chaos, avoiding direct conflict whenever possible. Then Bakugo appeared overhead. "Deku!" Explosions rained downward. Izuku spread a cloud shield. The blast scattered the mist. At the same moment, Todoroki's ice surged from the opposite direction, trying to trap everyone in its path. For a split second, Team Midoriya stood between firepower and ice. "Jump!" Izuku shouted. The clouds answered instantly. Cloud Dominion lifted the entire team high above the converging attacks. Bakugo's explosion slammed into Todoroki's ice, filling the arena with steam. The audience erupted in cheers. Beep! The timer reached 0. The arena fell quiet. Students looked at one another, breathing heavily. President Mike's voice echoed through the stadium. "Time's up!" The scoreboard illuminated. After the final calculations, the advancing teams appeared. First place, Team Todoroki. Second place, Team Midoriya. Third place, Team Bakugo. Fourth place, Team Tetsutetsu. Cheers echoed across the stadium. Ochako threw her arms into the air. "We made it!" Irida smiled. "Our teamwork carried us." Tokoyami gave a rare nod of satisfaction. The clouds never faltered. Izuku smiled warmly. No. They all trusted each other. The giant screen changed once more. One by one, the tournament matchups appeared. Students searched nervously for their names. Izuku found his. Round 1. Izuku Midoriya versus Hitoshi Shinso. A murmur spread through the crowd. Several students looked confused. Who? Others knew exactly who Shinso was. A general studies student with an infamous quirk. Across the waiting area, Hitoshi Shinso quietly looked up. Their eyes met. Shinso smiled faintly. "Let's see if a hero can resist losing control." The words were calm, but something about them made the void inside Izuku stir once more. Not with fear, with caution. That evening, as the stadium emptied, All Might found Izuku standing alone beneath the fading sunset. "You've grown." Izuku smiled sheepishly. "I still have a long way to go." All Might nodded. "That's true." His expression became serious. "But tomorrow, you'll face opponents who won't just challenge your strength. They'll challenge your heart." Izuku looked down at his hands. Clouds drifted lazily around his fingertips. The void remained quiet. For now. He whispered to himself, "No matter what happens, I won't let either half of my quirk decide who I am." Above him, the evening sky glowed with brilliant gold, and hidden behind those peaceful clouds, unseen by anyone below, the eclipse observer disappeared into the horizon. The next stage of the festival was about to begin, and with it, the first true test of Izuku Midoriya's spirit. The stadium was packed, more than ever before. Professional heroes filled the front rows. Television cameras hovered above the arena. Every match would be broadcast across Japan. For many students, this was an opportunity. For Izuku, it felt like another responsibility. As he waited in the competitors' hallway, he watched the early matches unfold. Powerful quirks, close victories, narrow defeats. Each competitor gave everything they had. Then Present Mike's voice echoed throughout the arena. "Our next match, from Class 1A, Izuku Midoriya." The crowd cheered. And from General Studies, Hitoshi Shinso. Shinso walked into the arena with calm, measured steps. Unlike many of the other competitors, he wasn't smiling. He wasn't nervous. He looked determined. The two stood opposite each other. The referee explained the rules. Neither moved. Finally, Shinso spoke. "So, you're a famous hero from the USJ." Izuku smiled politely. "I just did what anyone should have done." Shinso laughed quietly. "Anyone?" He shook his head. "Easy for someone with a quirk like yours." Izuku frowned. "What do you mean?" "My quirk." Shinso looked toward the cheering audience. "People hear its name and assume I'm a villain." His eyes hardened. "They don't see me. They see what I could become." Izuku listened carefully. He understood, more than Shinso realized. Shinso looked directly into Izuku's eyes. "You've always had people believing in you." Izuku instinctively answered, "No." The moment the word left his mouth, Shinso smiled. "Got you." Everything stopped. The crowd vanished. The stadium disappeared. Sound itself faded away. Izuku stood motionless. His eyes became blank. Brainwashing. Darkness surrounded him. Not frightening darkness. Quiet darkness. He floated weightlessly. Above him, infinite clouds. Below, endless void. The familiar dreamscape, but this time, someone was waiting. The mysterious figure stepped forward. Its face was clearer than ever. It looked older, wiser, scarred, yet unmistakably, it resembled Izuku. "You've come?" Izuku frowned. Again, the figure nodded. "The outside world has gone silent, so we may finally speak." "Who are you?" For the first time, the figure answered directly. "I am not your future. I am not your past. I am the first keeper." Izuku blinked. "The first keeper?" The figure nodded. "Long before heroes existed, there were guardians. They protected the balance between creation and absence." Clouds drifted around them. The void remained perfectly still. When humanity gained quirks, our order disappeared. Only fragments remained. Izuku struggled to understand. "What does that have to do with me?" The first keeper smiled sadly. "You inherited the final fragment." The first keeper extended one hand. Within it appeared two lights, one pure white, one completely black. Most who inherited the void chose power. The void consumed them. The cloud abandoned them. He closed his hand. The lights merged into silver. But you continued choosing others. Images surrounded Izuku, saving Ochako, protecting civilians at the USJ, giving up first place to rescue another student, sharing a drink with Bakugo. You strengthen the cloud. The cloud calms the void. Izuku looked at the memories. "I was just doing what felt right." The first keeper smiled. "Exactly." Outside the dream, Shinso watched patiently. Izuku remained perfectly still. The referee prepared to count him out. The crowd whispered nervously. All Might gripped the railing. Young Midoriya. Meanwhile, inside the dream, tiny cracks spread across the endless sky. The brainwashing quirk was beginning to interfere even here. The first keeper looked upward. Our time grows short. He placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder. Remember this. The void does not obey strength. It obeys purpose. The cloud does not follow hope. It creates it. Before Izuku could respond, the dream began collapsing. Outside, Shinso took another step toward the edge of the arena. Walk out of bounds. Izuku's body obeyed. 1 step, 2, 3. The crowd gasped. Then, a small cloud drifted down from the sky. It landed gently on Izuku's shoulder. Not summoned, not controlled, simply there. The cloud dissolved into cool mist. A memory surfaced. His mother smiling as she told him stories about heroes. All Might's words. Fear doesn't disqualify someone from becoming a hero. Ochako saying, I trust you. The first keeper whispering, purpose. A pulse of silver light flashed through Izuku's body. The brainwashing shattered. His eyes regained their focus. Shinso's expression changed for the first time. What? The crowd erupted. He broke free! How? Shinso barely had time to react. Izuku used Nimbus Step once, only once. He gently shoulder-checked Shinso, not with overwhelming force, not with anger, just enough to push him outside the ring. The buzzer sounded. Winner! Izuku Midoriya. The audience cheered loudly, but Izuku didn't celebrate. He walked over to Shinso and offered him a hand. You almost had me. Shinso stared at the offered hand, then accepted it. You're weird. Izuku laughed softly. I hear that a lot. Shinso smirked for the first time all tournament. Don't lose your next match. I won't. Deep beneath Musutafu, the Eclipse leader opened his eyes. So, he finally met the first keeper. The doctor looked stunned. The legends were true? They always were. The leader stared toward the surface. But something has changed. What? The first keeper spoke sooner than expected. He slowly stood. The balance is shifting. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the city. Far above them, sunlight still shone. For a brief moment, the sky itself reflected Izuku's soul, half radiant clouds, half endless void, neither overcoming the other, both existing in harmony. For now. The sports festival had reached its most anticipated match. The giant display board lit up across the stadium. Quarterfinal match, Izuku Midoriya versus Shoto Todoroki. The crowd erupted. News commentators leaned forward. Professional heroes watched with renewed interest. Two of the most talked-about first-year students would finally face one another. Backstage, Izuku adjusted his gloves. He wasn't afraid of losing. He was afraid of relying on the void. The memory of the first keeper lingered in his mind. The void does not obey strength. It obeys purpose. Izuku looked down at his left hand. No matter what happens, I'm choosing my own path. Across the hallway, Todoroki stood alone. He closed his eyes. Images flashed through his mind. His mother's gentle smile, the endless training, his father's relentless demands, the fire he refused to use. Then another memory, Izuku stopping during the obstacle race to save another student. He doesn't fight to win, he fights to protect. Todoroki opened his eyes. If anyone can understand, it's him. President Mike's voice echoed across the stadium. Begin! Neither student moved. For several long seconds, the arena remained completely still. A light breeze carried white clouds overhead. Todoroki broke the silence. You've been holding back. Izuku blinked. What? You avoid using the black half of your quirk? I use it when I have to. No. Todoroki's voice remained calm. You fear it. Izuku lowered his gaze. Yes. There was no point denying it. Without warning, Todoroki slammed his right foot onto the arena. A massive glacier exploded across the battlefield. The audience gasped. Ice towers rose toward the sky. Izuku reacted instantly. Clouds formed beneath his feet. Nimbus Step carried him upward. Tempest wings spread behind him. He glided over the frozen landscape rather than trying to break through it. The crowd cheered. It looks like he's flying. The two students circled one another. Ice below, clouds above. Neither had landed a meaningful blow. Todoroki unleashed another wave of ice, larger, faster. This time it reached into the sky itself. Izuku realized there wasn't enough room to dodge. Then don't dodge. He compressed every nearby cloud into a single brilliant spear. Not a weapon, a current, a focused stream of wind and vapor. He thrust it forward. The compressed cloud pierced the center of the glacier, splitting it into two enormous halves. The ice crashed harmlessly to either side of him. The audience leapt to its feet. Present Mike shouted, "He cut straight through it." Izuku whispered, "Skybreaker." The technique wasn't about destroying, it was about opening a path where none existed. Todoroki smiled faintly. That's more like it. He launched smaller waves of ice, forcing Izuku to stay moving. Between attacks, he spoke. "You know, I used to think power decided who we are." Ice surged again. Izuku weaved between frozen pillars. "But watching you, I realized something. Another clash, cloud against ice. You never let your quirk decide your choices." Izuku landed on a floating cloud platform. "I've had to learn that." Todoroki nodded. "So do I." The battle intensified. Neither student had gained a clear advantage. Todoroki's ice covered most of the arena. Izuku's clouds filled the sky. The audience could barely see the two fighters through the swirling mist. Then Izuku spoke. "Todoroki." He looked directly at him. "That fire, it's yours." Silence. The stadium itself seemed to hold its breath. "You aren't your father." Words struck harder than any attack. "You don't honor him by using your flames. You honor yourself." Todoroki's breathing became uneven. Memories flooded back. His mother's tears, his childhood, his hatred, his fear. Then another memory. Midoriya risking everything to save someone he'd barely met. Power wasn't about proving something. It was about protecting others. A single tear rolled down Todoroki's face. The left side of his body began to glow. For years, he'd rejected that power. Today, he made a different choice. Orange flames erupted from his left side. The stadium exploded into cheers. Even the pro heroes stood. From the VIP section, Endeavor watched in stunned silence. His son had finally accepted both halves of himself. But not because of him, because of Midoriya. Flames roared across the arena. They didn't consume, they illuminated. Izuku smiled. "There you are." Todoroki smiled back. "Thank you." The two charged. Fire met clouds. Steam filled the stadium. Skybreaker clashed with waves of flame and ice. Neither held back. Neither fought with hatred. Only respect. At the final instant, their attacks collided in a brilliant explosion of light and vapor. The shockwave rolled across the stadium. When the steam cleared, both students stood at opposite ends of the arena, breathing heavily. Then, Izuku's knees gave out. Stormheart hadn't activated, but Skybreaker and Tempest Wings together had drained nearly all his strength. He fell just outside the center of the ring. Todoroki remained standing. The referee raised a hand. "Winner, Shoto Todoroki." Thunderous applause echoed throughout the stadium. Medical staff hurried toward Izuku. Before they reached him, Todoroki extended a hand. "You made me use my whole heart." Izuku accepted the help with a tired smile. "You made me trust mine." The crowd applauded once more. Not because someone had won, because they had witnessed two young heroes helping each other become stronger. As the stadium celebrated, far below the school, hidden beneath layers of reinforced bedrock, the Eclipse observer finally found what he had been searching for, an enormous stone door. Ancient symbols covered its surface. At its center, one emblem, a silver cloud intertwined with a black circle of endless darkness, the same symbol that had appeared on Izuku's arm during Stormheart. The observer whispered into his communicator, "I've found the vault." Miles away, the leader of the Eclipse closed his eyes. "So, the first sanctuary still exists," he opened them again. "And soon, the child of cloud and void will stand before it." The applause from the sports festival still echoed in Izuku's mind. He had lost, But unlike the helpless defeats of his childhood, this one didn't fill him with despair. Instead, it filled him with questions. As he sat in Recovery Girl's office with an ice pack on his shoulder, he replayed the match against Todoroki. I relied too much on mobility. Skybreaker took too much energy. Cloud Dominion isn't suited for one-on-one combat. Recovery Girl smiled. You're analyzing yourself already. Izuku scratched the back of his head. I guess it's a habit. She laughed softly. Don't lose that habit. But don't forget to celebrate how far you've come. He looked out the window. For the first time, he believed he truly belonged at UA. The sports festival came to an end, and with it came internship offers. Students gathered around the large display board. Every new offer caused murmurs through the classroom. Bakugo had dozens. Todoroki had even more. Tokoyami and Yaoyorozu were highly sought after. Then Present Mike announced another total. Midoriya, 87 internship offers. The classroom erupted. Ochako smiled proudly. I knew you'd get a lot. Ida adjusted his glasses. An impressive accomplishment. Izuku stared at the number in disbelief. 87? Aizawa looked toward him. Most of those offers mention your rescue work. They aren't just interested in your quirk. They're interested in your judgment. Those words meant more to Izuku than the number itself. That evening, another envelope arrived. Unlike the others, it bore no agency logo, only a handwritten message. Young Midoriya, if you're serious about becoming stronger, come to this address. Wear comfortable shoes, and don't expect a warm welcome. An old friend of All Might. Attached was a map. All Might smiled when he saw it. So, he accepted? Izuku looked confused. Who? All Might grinned. You'll find out soon enough. The address led to a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Musutafu. It wasn't a hero agency. It looked like an ordinary house. Izuku knocked. Nothing happened. He knocked again. Still nothing. As he turned to leave, the front door burst open. A tiny old man in a yellow tracksuit shot toward him at incredible speed. Wham! Izuku barely managed to summon a cloud cushion before he was launched backward. He rolled across the yard before stopping. The old man laughed. Too slow. Izuku blinked. Who are you? The old man grinned. Name's Gran Torino. So you're Toshinori's problem child? Gran Torino wasted no time. You fly around on clouds. You create shields. You've got fancy techniques. He poked Izuku's forehead. But your foundation is weak. Izuku frowned. I thought I was improving. You are. Gran Torino nodded. But you're still treating your quirk like separate abilities. He pointed toward the sky. What are clouds? Izuku answered automatically. Water vapor. What else? They're always moving. Gran Torino smiled. Exactly. Then he stomped his foot. What are you doing? Standing. No. The old hero shook his head. You're stopping. Clouds never stopped. Wind never stopped. Even still skies were moving. Gran Torino folded his arms. Your biggest weakness isn't power. It's hesitation. Training began immediately. Gran Torino attacked without warning. Every time Izuku blocked, he got hit. Every time he stopped moving, he got hit. Every time he paused to think, he got hit. By sunset, Izuku had lost count of how many times he'd landed on the ground. Gran Torino finally called a break. What's the lesson? Izuku groaned. You're really fast. The old hero smacked him lightly on the head. Wrong. Izuku rubbed the sore spot. Gran Torino pointed toward the drifting clouds overhead. They never ask permission to move. They simply follow the wind. Then he pointed at Izuku. You think. You analyze. You calculate. Those are strengths. But in battle, you think after you move, not before. Something clicked. The first keeper's words echoed in his memory. Purpose. Gran Torino's lesson wasn't replacing that teaching, it was completing it. Purpose guided his heart. Flow guided his body. Far beneath UA, the eclipse observer stood before the ancient stone vault, discovered days earlier. Torchlight flickered across symbols carved thousands of years ago. The silver cloud, the black circle, between them, A third symbol had remained hidden beneath centuries of dust. The observer brushed it clean. It resembled a human hand. He activated his communicator. The inscriptions continue beyond the entrance. The leader's voice answered. "Can you open it?" "No, there isn't a lock." Silence. "Then, what do you mean?" The observer looked closely at the center of the stone. "There is only one sentence." He read it aloud. "Only the one who walks between heaven and nothingness may enter." The chamber fell silent. The leader slowly closed his eyes. So, the sanctuary chose its guardian long ago. Weeks of training passed. Izuku no longer summoned clouds by forcing them into shape. He moved. The clouds followed. He stepped. Wind answered. Gran Torino smiled as Izuku crossed the training field without touching the ground once. No hesitation, no wasted movement. The old hero nodded. "Now you're learning." Izuku landed lightly. His breathing remained calm. A small cloud circled his feet like a loyal companion. I finally understand. Clouds weren't weapons. They weren't shields. They weren't tools. They were an extension of his will, just as breathing was. He closed his eyes. A gentle breeze surrounded him. For the first time, using his quirk felt effortless. He whispered the name of the technique that had begun forming naturally through his training, Sky Current. Rather than creating platforms beneath each step, Sky Current wrapped moving streams of cloud around his body, allowing him to change direction instantly and conserve energy. He wasn't fighting gravity anymore. He was flowing with the sky. Just as the internship settled into a rhythm, Gran Torino's television interrupted the quiet evening. A news bulletin flashed across the screen. Several pro-heroes had been attacked in Hosu City. Witnesses described the same attacker, a lone figure, a sword. Dozens of defeated heroes, one chilling message left behind at every scene. False heroes must fall. Gran Torino's expression grew serious. The hero killer. He looked toward Izuku. It's beginning. At that same moment, miles away in the shadows of Hosu's rain-soaked streets, a blood-stained figure stood atop a rooftop. Stain watched the city below. His eyes were cold, his conviction unwavering. He spoke to the empty night. The world has forgotten what a true hero is. Behind him, hidden even from Stain's senses, a single ribbon of black mist drifted silently through the darkness. The eclipse had arrived in Hosu as well. And for reasons still unknown, they had no intention of interfering with the hero killer. They were waiting for someone else. Someone whose destiny was drawing closer with every step. Someone who carried both the endless sky and the endless void. And here is where we'll stop. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you think would be a good what if video. Thanks again and God bless.